Welcome to the March 12th episode of Right Now. I'm Chris Reddy, coming to you from the WILI studios on Main Street in Willimantic. We are actually broadcasting in between the airing of the preseason Red Sox game in UConn. This is going to be a shortened one-segment episode for the next 25 minutes. If you would like to listen to the full one-hour episodes of Right Now, Mondays, 3 to 4 p.m., 95.3 FM, 1400 AM, WILI, you can also see us on YouTube. You can go to YouTube, search WILI and Right Now, and you can go to WILI.com podcasts at the top, pull-down menu, scroll all the way down, look for Right Now, and you can listen to previous episodes of Right Now in that format. In studio today, I have two guests with me. One is a prior co-host to the show that is making his return after a couple of weeks.
I know, right?
And we're glad to have him back. That's Curtis Ehler.
Happy to be here.
And
but we're not alone.
Yeah, we have another guest with us, again returning to the show, and this is our Connecticut Congressional District 2 candidate, George Austin. Welcome to the show again, George.
Thank you, sir. You're never alone, Curtis.
Oh,
You're never alone.
Hey,
I'm always with you in spirit.
I saw you on the cover of the Chronicle a couple days ago. You're looking sharp up there.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
You didn't know?
No, I did not.
No,
we're gonna have to
mainstream
find that
media.
picture.
You're breaking out, man.
I hope they didn't make me look fat.
Well, I don't think it's not about make.
You can't tell on the radio, but I am not a slim fellow.
Built for radio.
That's right.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
There we go.
Very good. So we're glad to have a couple of guests in studio talk with us this afternoon. One of the things that I've tried to do over the past few months, and we're going to kind of talk about this a little bit more, in particular with something that happened yesterday at the state capitol. I've tried to point out in the past few episodes some of the current legislation that is going through Hartford that is going to have a direct financial impact on Connecticut residents and Connecticut taxpayers. This is something that I think is a key issue for the elections of 2026 in this midterm cycle. And I've pointed out how some of the current legislation is not only going to drive property taxes up, drive energy costs up. We've talked about public benefits charge and some of the things that have applied. Even last week, we talked about the ban on gas-powered backpack leaf blowers that they're looking to impose, and that it starts with a transition of state departments or contractors that work on state property that will have to transition starting next year to electric backpack blowers, and that's going to be a transition that is subsidized as part of the public benefits charge. So I've tried to point out several of these different things that have occurred related to this, so we're going to kind of circle around back towards at the end of the segment and talk about this again. What has happened in the legislature over the past year with e-certifications, meaning that bills are rapidly brought to the legislature without the appropriate and proper process of sometimes public hearing, sometimes proper amount of time allowed for an opposition party to view the legislation. When it's distributed minutes before you go to the House floor or the Senate floor, do you have a reasonable amount of time to prepare any type of really impactful committee debate? And I say no, and I think these are tactics that really do not bode well to our legislature the way that it is supermajority controlled right now.
Got to pass the bill to see what's in it.
We've heard that before, right?
Yes, we have.
Isn't that the joke from Nancy Pelosi years
That is
ago?
correct. Well, I mean,
She
it was a joke, but she was not telling a joke. She was looking everyone dead in the eyes, saying, if you want to find out what's in the bill, we got to pass it first. And that was like a 1,000-page omnibus.
And we've seen that happen. That's exactly what's been going on in the past year and a half. Huge omnibus bills, tons of different things in it, sometimes earmarks that I talked about in previous episodes that are simply a suggestion from a legislator as to a sum of money for a nonprofit to receive without any other vetting or transparency. These are things that we really have to be concerned about. One of the things that really concerns me that occurred yesterday, there was two bills that were controversial. We've seen these on social media if you've been paying attention at all. At the state capitol, hundreds and hundreds of people showed up.
Great.
There was, I think when I looked
I was
at it,
there.
515 people for one of these bills who had submitted requests to provide in-person testimony. You're allowed 3 minutes to present your support or opposition when you provide in-person testimony at the Capitol or on Zoom. To have 500 people show up is a huge commitment.
Oh, yeah.
We recognize that. You are there for 20, 24 plus hours listening to people testify. The legislature voted and decided that in this case, and the vast majority of the in-person testimony was going to be in opposition, and this was known. They decided they were going to cut off in-person testimony at 12:15 this morning. They voted for that.
Wow.
It passed. And I really see this as a real dereliction of duty. When you are voted in, it is your job to listen to the people that you are supposed to be representing. Whether it's in opposition to or in support of, that is one of the significant roles that you play, is making sure that you are properly taking into account the sentiment of these people who have taken time out of their day, taken times away from job, family, other commitments to show up and provide in-person testimony. And now you have legislators who say, I'm sorry, your comment is not important enough for us to stay here.
That's amazing. This is one of those times where I wish we had like a paid like fact checker, like somebody that could like look up all the information, because I know a thing or two about Robert's rules. I know that there's for those rules of order, those standards rules of order, you can limit debate amongst the body, amongst the legislative body. I think that you have to create your own fancy process to even come up with a way to limit public input at a public hearing. I've never heard of limiting debate at a public hearing. That must be a special Connecticut legislative process, and not a very nice one.
My feeling, and I'm talking from experience, because when I did work for the Appropriations Committee last year, we had some of the largest numbers of in-person testimony during 2025.
Yeah.
And there were times where I was up helping with Zoom meetings, promoting people to be able to speak when they couldn't do it in person, but on Zoom, until 2, 3 o'clock in the morning.
Absolutely. That's how
it works.
supposed
That's
to
the
be.
process. That
Yeah.
is the process.
People
and
get to
that's
get
what we
heard.
keep in mind. So this was something that was very concerning to me. And specifically, I want to kind of get into talking a little bit about the bill that was being discussed. And this was, in fact, House Bill 5044, which was an act establishing the Connecticut vaccine standards. The other one that was being discussed that drew a lot of in-person testimony and a lot of people to the Capitol yesterday was Senate Bill 450, which was the one that was going to remove religious exemptions.
This is for homeschooler families.
Yes, but it's just vaccine standards in general.
Really?
Okay. So what the
Broader than I thought.
state legislature is opposing is the change at the federal level that now has a tiered system for vaccine schedules for children. There are 3 categories. There's a category of shots recommended for all children. We can all agree on that. We don't want measles and smallpox outbreaks. There's a second category recommended for certain high-risk groups, meaning there are some that, yes, we want to make sure you are protected from this stuff, but if you have a predisposition to a reaction to a vaccine or an injury to vaccines, maybe we don't need you to have all of these if you are at low risk for contact with some of these vaccines that we're trying to provide immunity against. The final tier of this federal system of vaccine recommendations is that the decision should be up to a shared decision-making process between a patient or a parent and their doctor.
Okay.
We know that historically it was Ronald Reagan who first implemented federal law that required that if you suffered any type of vaccine injury, that you would be you would be able to recoup damages and costs, but you had to sue the government in order to sue a pharmaceutical company. That has, I think, has really made vaccine scheduling and the use of vaccines much more of a political issue and really kind of changed the way that people discuss this topic. I think that one thing that Republicans are not so clear about is that when people say anti-vax, it's not anti-vaccination. We just want to be able to make a decision, an informed decision with a medical professional that you have a relationship with. Mm-hmm. Why is the state mandating this? And why are we going now in the process that Connecticut typically does, where we don't do things in one big move, but we have little incremental steps? Well, here we are. Now we're starting to say we're going to mandate our own schedule that is being decided upon by a non-elected, appointed political person in the commissioner of the Department of Health, who not only has the authorization to set the schedule for vaccines, but then also purchase on behalf of the state of Connecticut for vaccine stockpiling. In addition to that, legislation being passed this year is going to allow that commissioner to now not just purchase from the Center for Disease Control for vaccines as part of this schedule, but to look for other options as vendors for procuring vaccines for the state of Connecticut. So now you have one person, unelected, doing all of these jobs and filling all of these roles without any regulatory oversight from the legislature.
That's amazing. So we have a commissioner that does all these roles. So hypothetically speaking, let's say I'm a salesman for the pharmaceutical industry. Mm-hmm. I get to talk. I only have to market to one person to
cover all,
require, to compel people to use my medicine, and it's the same person that I market to sell my pharmaceuticals to in bulk. That's the exact same person.
Without any legislative oversight.
You don't have any golf trips and steak dinners that the pharmaceutical industry is going to save. I mean, think of the savings. We're all. I mean, obviously, our health insurance bills must be falling through the floor. I mean, it's going to be amazing.
The salesman job is going to become so easy.
So what scares me about that is the precedent it's setting. I've been talking about that a lot lately. I'm very concerned about setting precedents. For example, when I'm answering questions on abortion, I'm asked, would you outlaw it? Would you ban it? What would you be in favor of? And I said, look, we're already at where it's going to be at, making it a state issue in terms of legality, in terms of availability. I was just at the Capitol actually a week ago providing testimony on that because of parental notification. Just quickly, before I get down to the weeds, the parental notification bill was the law. The current statute is written such that if a minor, if a young lady, and I think it's written pregnant person, so whatever that is, if a young lady should want an abortion, the provider, the medical provider, is actually forbidden from notifying next of kin, of notifying anyone. Mm-hmm. Forbidden, meaning that they don't have the choice to keep a secret per the patient's will. They are if the patient says, "Could you call my mom?" they say no, it is illegal, which is nuts to me. Mm-hmm. And I told my story about how my wife, when we discovered that my wife was pregnant, I was a 19-year-old and I was looking pregnancy right in the face as being very daunting, being a teen father. So I actually wanted I took it upon myself to campaign for my wife to agree to abort my son. Mm-hmm. And I told this story on the floor, and I said, "Look, here's the parallel. I was scared and being selfish, mm-hmm. and all these negative things, and I was not alone, and I'm the guy. I'm the father to be. Yeah. So the fact that there's an entity, in this case the state government, getting in the way of someone seeking counsel or help or support from someone who's equally or if not more intimidated just doesn't make sense to me. Yeah. I digress. The question about a precedent. I answer. So with all that being said, I answer. When that comes up, I say, well, no, I'm not in favor of outlawing it or banning it outright because it sets a precedent. It sets a precedent that if the government, at any level, any government, of any size or location, if they can prohibit you from doing something with your body, then the precedent is set that they can compel you to put something into your body or to do something to your body. And that is no bueno. I am not in favor of that, so I do not want to set precedent. And what scares me, sorry that I took the long road here, what scares me about this is that the language sets precedent. It opens the door. For example, the gun bill that I also testified on yesterday, it essentially outlaws Glocks because Glocks can be modified. Well, you know what's scary? There are still buildings being built with roofs that people can jump off of if they wanted to, and yet these things are built. I know because I'm building them. And the point, and so I am just concerned about precedent being set. There's none of this is being thought through and I'm not sure if it's because of a lack of desire or maybe it's intentional that this language is so ambiguous and it sets a precedent for the unthinkable.
Yeah.
To be frank.
Yeah. And that's exactly what I alluded to earlier, where this is going to be incremental steps where we are losing these rights slowly, piece by piece, and it's not until all of a sudden you're like, how did this happen? And that's what we're trying to prevent. We don't want people getting to that realization, how did this happen? How do we end up in this place? Let's see it for what it is now, and that's what we're trying to get across. And you brought up something else we want to talk about this session, because we do have just a few more minutes left in this segment. The 2 gun bills that are up.
Yeah, now I'm way behind on this, so let's pretend I'm a listener that doesn't know anything, because I'm a listener that doesn't know anything.
Very much so. My concern is that
that's pretty good.
Both of these bills clearly are pushing the envelope as to defining what guns are, what guns aren't. And in the first one, House Bill 5043, which you mentioned is about the Glocks.
The Glocks.
What they are trying to do is outlaw specific guns based on manufacturer that use the same type of trigger mechanism system where another component or part can be added.
That is already outlawed?
Yeah, that's already outlawed. That can make them potentially more dangerous. Okay? Without this part or modification, these guns are otherwise extremely popular.
Extremely reliable.
Exactly, extremely reliable, and used in a lawful manner by not only law enforcement and federal agents, but also by citizens every day to protect themselves. Inherently, these manufacturers, their models or types of guns aren't what they are trying to get at here, but it's actually the part that changes it. And that's where I have a problem with some of these definitions. This one specifically talks about banning convertible guns. All right?
Convertible guns.
Yes. So now we're defining what a convertible gun is, simply meaning that it could accept this particular part.
Does any other... Has this definition been used anywhere else in the country?
This is specifically referring to the ability of this switch component.
That's a good question, though.
Being added to there. What I understand is that, and this is something that I really have difficulty with the AR platform. The way that they are defining something that should be federally they call it assault weapon, machine gun, whatever they want to say. The way that they try and exclude these from public ability to own is that they are, and the wording is dangerous and unusual. Now here's where where some of this comes into place. First, an AR-15 isn't unusual by any means. It's probably the most popular gun that's been sold in the last 15 years.
Now, how do you
platform.
define whether or not a gun is dangerous?
Well, what they're saying is that the term, as I understand it, dangerous and unusual refers to actually something that becomes now unusually dangerous. So they're really trying to play semantic words here. But
That's a circular argument if I ever heard one.
I'm
Well,
very
this is
confused.
so there's a
You know
lot
what
of
I'm
things,
saying?
but there is actually lawsuits at the level, and a local attorney is one of the ones that's bringing this up right now at the federal level to talk about this and saying that this is not a appropriate ban. The other bill is House Bill 5436 with regard to gun laws, and this is the one that tries to define individual components of a gun as being capable of being firearms themselves. So now we have to register a barrel that's being replaced on a gun that's worn out. Or if you wanted to change the barrel on a rifle for a specific type of rifling grooves inside the barrel, is that component now a completely separate entity and requiring registration, and therefore a whole nother list of what people own in Connecticut? Who has what? Oh, well, this person has an extra cylinder. Do we need to take that extra cylinder for a revolver and now engrave it and register it and keep lists of this? Again, it's these incremental encroachments where we see them going after legal gun owners and not actually the illegal firearms that are causing problems on the streets.
So this bill, the parts of guns are now guns, if I'm understanding your
Yes.
argument correctly.
You
Okay.
are.
Yes, you
Parts
are.
of guns are now guns. I have to guess that's fear-mongering around, oh, these kids can buy one piece at a time over the internet. Now they have a ghost gun.
Again, something that's illegal in Connecticut. There's already established law on the books that says you can't buy components from all over the place and construct your own gun in Connecticut.
Well, someone better get all these criminals all these memos that there's just a lot of stuff on the
I know.
books
Do you
that they
think-
cannot be doing.
Yeah, like you can't be carrying this
They
stuff.
got to be getting the memo, man. You know that's crazy. That's like saying every time I go get some new tires, I need a different kind or a modification on my license plate on my car. And what that says to me is I'm not actually looking
new
at
tax
making
bill.
a different or no, another tax bill.
this.
Yeah.
It's just trying to dissuade behavior or change behaviors from the public at large through government intervention and compelling.
Yeah.
Or compelling.
Well said. Well, thank
Was
you
it?
guys. We're coming up to the end of our segment here. I want to thank George Austin, Connecticut Congressional District 2 candidate for 2026,
Absolutely, anytime.
and my co-host Curtis Ehler for being here today with us. Thank you, producer Matt. This has been Right Now with Chris Reddy on 95.3 FM WILI.